The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Skis, and I am the Director of Media for TAPS. We're going to get started with this One Act Play webinar in just a couple of minutes, but I've got some housekeeping things to take care of before we do. So, first and foremost, this webinar is being recorded, and that recording will be made available on our YouTube page later this afternoon. That's youtube.com/tapsbiz. There's going to be a link in the follow-up email that you get from GoToWebinar. We're going to put the link on our website. The link's going to be all over the place. So if there's somebody on your campus that needs to hear this information but could not be with us today, you can just easily send that on to them. Second, while we go through our presentation, if you have any questions, please use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface. We're going to try to answer those as we go through the presentation, but if we don't get to yours right away, don't worry about it. There is a Q&A session at the end. You don't need to ask your question twice. We'll go through all the ones that we didn't hit. If we run out of time, or if your question is just too detailed for us to get into in this venue, don't worry about it. Just send us an email after the webinar, info@taps.biz, or call us up at the office, and we can get those questions answered for you. Third, some of us are working from home, some of us are in the office, so if there's some network issues or dogs barking or noise, I apologize for that. We're just trying to do the best we can with this whole social distancing thing. But from the office, I am joined today by Brian Bunzelmeyer, the TAPS Executive Director, Robert Huckerby, our Director of Compliance, Steve Prudhomme, the TAPS Associate Director, and Will Dixon from the TAPS staff. He's helping us out behind the keyboard in there. Vina Williams, our Fine Arts Director, could not be with us today. We apologize for that, but we should be able to answer all the questions that you have. And if not, we can kick them to her after the fact. Before I hand it over to Robert, I've got a quick poll for you folks. We would like to know what your role is at your school with One Act Play. Are you an athletic or fine arts director? Are you a One Act Play director, assistant director? Are you another staff member on your campus, or are you not a staff member at a TAPS school? I'll leave that up for a couple of seconds. Looks like about 15% of you have voted. Leave this up for a little bit longer. Mostly directors. Good afternoon. About 10 more seconds and we'll get going. All right, I'm going to close this tab and hand it over to Robert.
Okay, John, thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to everyone. This will conclude our basically last 2 weeks of webinars that we've held here in the office, breaking them down by activities and sports that are coming up most immediately, things you'll be doing throughout the summer and then into our fall season. And we're going to march through some information today. As John mentioned, we'll also try to answer questions for you. If you'll type those in while we're going through the webinar or at the end, we'll be glad to try to help you with those. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Brian for some welcoming comments.
Thank you for joining us here today. TAPS One Act Play continues strong as we go towards 2021. As we move forward, I think we were fortunate that our fall activities were able to be concluded last year, which included One Act Play, and we appreciate all those of you who participated. As we begin moving forward, we've got some things here to talk about what the summer looks like, what the fall looks like, and what our plans. And then we'll briefly recap a few of the rules as we go forward. But just kind of wanted to make sure we got back in touch with everybody. We have a lot of different facets that go on here in the TAPS office, a lot of different opportunities to miss people. We didn't want to miss this time. So we definitely appreciate you joining us here today. And we look forward to answering your questions and providing a little guidance. And if we can be a service, we certainly want to be. Robert?
Thank you, Brian. As our schools concluded the spring semester of this most recent school year, obviously, with how it ended, everybody began discussions about what the fall would look like and reopening campus. Brian, share with our listeners some of the discussions we've had and some of the things we're thinking as we move into the fall.
I think as most are aware, the TEA and the UIL have reopened a lot of their opportunities in the coming weeks. So basically the TEA, the Texas Education Agency, said that summer school could begin on June 1st. So that kind of set our jumping off point of June 1st. So the TAPS rules basically indicate that as we go forward, June 1st, which is next Monday, local control will take over on what happens on your campus. I know that across the state, we have many folks planning on camps for their younger students beginning on June 1st. Some of your athletic programs are planning on weightlifting and those opportunities, getting in the conditioning that they need to get in. But it also extends to our fine art programs, our one-act plays, et cetera. So if you were planning on doing a camp, I think you need to get with your administration. It will be their local control, which determines the usage of your building. But I would highly encourage that whatever protocols that the athletic department is using to screen their students as they come in and participate in conditioning drills, that you have similar guidelines in place, even if it's coming in, whether it's the use of bathrooms, whether it's water, whether it's kids have to bring their own food, et cetera. The social distancing aspect is a little easier in one-act play in many instances than it is in other activities. But those, again, will be left to local control. We feel like each of our schools is different. I've said it a couple of times here. If anybody would have told me that Potter County and Amarillo would be the lockdown area of the state right now, based on what we originally knew about COVID, I would not have thought that to be the case. But they're struggling a little bit up there. And so their restrictions for coming back may be later, maybe longer than others. We do have some schools that have said they're not going to reopen their campus till July, and some even, into July. So as you go forward, each of our schools will have its own plan for reopening at its own pace. And we encourage right now, we seem to be on a good string of looking at the data. We just encourage taking your time, taking a pause to look around and make sure we're on the right place. So reopening campus as of June 1. I think local control, your administration, your fine art staff, your athletic staff, and your head administrators, it's will then be up to y'all to decide what best fits your program and what pace to reopen.
Thank you, Brian. Our next slide is our disclaimer that we've been sharing with everyone as we walk through information. We're going to share some information today about thoughts we have as we move through the summer. Hopefully our convention in July, which is still scheduled, and we hope we can see everybody there. And then moving into the fall, beginning of school and those activities, what you're doing at your level, and guidance we're trying to give you here from the TAPS office. Just please keep in mind, we're all in the time we're living in now subject to whatever those state and local restrictions are out there that certainly might be different in your area of the state than others. So keep that in mind as you get with your administration and plan what your activities are over the summer and then moving into the fall. This has been a moving target, as we all know, and as things develop, we will certainly from the TAPS office be sharing updates and more information as we move through the summer. Moving on to Rank 1, Brian, share with our listeners a little bit about our history and our use of Rank 1 this last year, and then what we see going forward.
Over the years, we've used Tapster as our fine art and athletic data entry point for all of our students. And last year, we moved over to Rank 1. It was a rocky little start. We weren't able to get started until July, and some of the fine arts had a bigger struggle than other things, getting kids entered, et cetera. And we were using both Tapster and Rank 1 at that point. This year, all of your information will be in Rank 1. That's how we will communicate with you. That's how we'll enter your students, et cetera. So assistant directors and directors, we need to make sure that you are in Rank 1 and listed as one-act play, director or assistant director, and all of your roles that might play out. We need that in Rank 1. We need you to activate that profile. And we need for you to have accurate information. We need an accurate phone number and an accurate email. I know I have been tempted in the past to use a fake email and a fake number just to get the thing, get my membership started. But this time we really do need your cell phone number and we need your accurate information. The reason it's important is we do information 3 ways. We're going to push information through Rank 1, which will say you have a new notification in your coach's toolkit. We're going to send an email to you over MailChimp, which is a broad-based email delivery system, and then we'll post it on the One Act Play page on the TAPS website. So make sure your information is current, make sure it's up to date, make sure your profile, that's also where you'll do your professional acknowledgement of rules and it will also guide you to any other educational materials we need. So rank 1 is where we're going to do our director and assistant director, our school profiles, and as Robert's going to mention here briefly, the student profiles as well.
Rank 1 is our database for all of our information, for all of our directors, sponsors, coaches, whatever your role might be at the school. It's also our database for all of our student information. So while we're talking about student information, Rank 1 is a database just much like the one you probably have at your school that has to be rolled over or promoted from one school year to the next. That's true in Rank 1 as well. There is someone at your school, and it may be you or someone else, that is kind of the Rank 1 person who's been the person who's been the administrator and the person in charge of all things Rank 1 at your school. Rank 1 has been hosting webinars over the last several weeks with the promotion process. It is not a complicated process. There are a few steps you have to go through to make sure all your forms are updated and correct, and then the process is done correctly. That will need to be done for all your students. Everything will need to be promoted from last year to this upcoming year so that all the information for all the staff and all the students in Rank 1 is updated and correct. What your new parents will have to do is go in and create a profile and answer all those questions. What your returning families will have to do is go in, log into their same account, update that profile, make sure the information there is correct, and that's the database that we'll use for your student eligibility in all their various programs throughout the year.
So Tapster was one that you saw on the front end before. It's going to be used on the back end now. It will definitely be used for our meet and contest management, but as far as entering data, it will all go through Rank 1. One of the things that the athletic side and some of our fine arts, cheer and dance, have to do is student physical, student health. So the good news is in the One Act Play department, they don't have to have a physical. So as they go through there, that will be updated, and hopefully that will not be a point of conflict this year. I know the students were showing red if they didn't have a physical uploaded last year, but it should not be a problem this year. So we're going to move right on through that since that doesn't apply to One Act Play, and good for you that it does not. And what we do as far as we move forward, there will probably be some statement required by each school that students are in good health and that they are not sick with COVID or whatever. So those things may come, but we're not going to require physical of One Act Play students. So Robert.
Thank you, Brian. At this point, we're going to have another poll. John, if you'll step in here and help with that.
Yes, sir. We would like to know, folks, what your scheduled first day of school is for the 2020-2021 school year, whether that's the week of August 3rd, August 10th, August 17th, 24th, or 31st. That poll is now active. If you don't know or that hasn't been decided yet, you can leave it blank. And if it's not one of these options, go ahead and say what your start date is in the questions so we can see it. We're asking these questions of everybody. We're just trying to see what all our schools are up to. We've got 225 across the state, so trying to keep things consistent. About 75% of you voted. Leave this up for about 20 more seconds. All right, I'm not seeing any more votes come in, so we're going to close that poll, and I'm going to hand it back to Robert. Thank you, folks.
All right, thank you, John. Our next slide is the TAPS calendar. Our TAPS calendar is posted on the TAPS website. That's taps.biz. The little calendar tab is right up there at the top. You click on that, it'll take you to the calendar. That's our calendar for the 2020-2021 school year. It's been out there for a while. And as we sit here today, we don't anticipate, we're not planning for any changes to that. We hope that holds true, but that's where we are as we sit here today. Some important dates that are coming up for those of you in the world of One Act Play. Your initial sign up will be September 1. That's when your school does its contract for the year with TAPS, and where they will list all of their activities, sports, fine arts, and otherwise. They'll list all their activities on there. So make sure that whomever is doing that at your school Has you signed up for One Act Play, you'll be in the system, you'll start receiving that information, and we'll know that you will be participating. Our district certification is October 27th on the calendar. That's when all your district competitions need to be completed so that we can move on to our championships, and those dates are noted there. November 5th will be the Division II championships, November 7th, Division I, and then November 10th will be Division III. Brian, any other comments about the calendar or the fall?
So one question that continues to come up with One Act Play, and it's really hard, and we understand it's hard, is when can I set my district? When will I know who's going to be in my district? And when can I begin planning my district? Well, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. We're going to jump on to, we'll go ahead and go to the TAPS website. If you'll go to the TAPS website, and that's www.taps.biz. On the far left-hand side in the black bar, there's the word alignment. You'll click on alignment and it will take you to the next landing page. The hamster here at the TAPS office is a little slow on the internet today, so it's trying. I see the little button spinning. When you get to the alignment page, you'll scroll down to where it says One Act Play Alignment. So you'll click on One Act Play Alignment, and those schools are aligned by division 1, 2, and 3, based on enrollment, and we ranked them and then we divided them out. The schools that are showing there are those that showed last October that they were intending to play One Act Play this year. So as we look at those numbers, if you look in there and your school is not there and you plan on playing, please send us an email to info at taps, TAPPS.biz, that's B-I-Z, info at taps.biz. If you have already looked and you've begun contacting those schools that are in your district and someone says, hey, we're not playing this year, or we may not play this year, please encourage them to email us at info at taps.biz and indicate that they do not plan. Without that information in hand, then we will not know who is participating in One Act Play until September 1st. So once we know September 1st, then by September 8th, we can post who is going to be in each district. The districts may change based on people dropping or people adding. Our divisions may change as well. There is some concern that's been expressed by schools that One Act Play is by no means the cheapest thing that's done on campus. Will schools be able to continue the program? We're hoping that they will. We highly encourage it. Travel is another concern, that even though we're only in the end of May, will I be able to travel very far to go take care of One Act Play district in October? Or if I do qualify for state, will I be able to go to state? So again, go to taps.biz, click on alignment, jump down to where it says One Act Play, and then go look and see if your school is listed. And again, if you know of schools that have said no, or if your school is not listed, please do us a favor and let us know that, so that we can have the most up-to-date information possible. And then that will allow us to then help you set your districts and your district schedules. We skipped over the word convention on our slide presentation. We will have our convention in Waco. We're presently scheduled for an in-person. We may have to go virtual. Being a part of that, what we're looking for are presenters. So if you would like to present in the One Act Play realm, please drop us an email at info@taps.biz. Each session will be about 55 minutes. We plan on having at least 4 designated for One Act Play, from set design, and I think there's choosing the right piece. So the convention itself will kick off with our keynote speaker on July the 9th, and then it will carry through July 9 and July 10. So we hope you can join us there. As we jump back, Will, let's go back to the website just for a little bit. This time we're going to go click on Fine Arts. So taps.biz, on the black line, click on the word Fine Arts. It's going to spin here at the TAPS office for a few minutes. Aggravate me while we go, but that's okay. It's the internet. And then when we get there, we're going to drop down to Performing Arts on the left-hand side, and we're going to click on the word One Act Play. I need you to bookmark that One Act Play page, because that is the page where all things One Act Play will reside. In TAPS, there are a few things there that I would like to walk through with you. So as Will scrolls down, you have the One Act Play rules there on the red bar. For those of you that have been in the UIL or are used to that, our rules are a little different, not a whole lot different, but they are a little different. The FAQs are updated as we get questions from the membership. District info, again, once we get closer to September, the district and where your district competition is, who's hosting, all those key details will be listed on that page.
All right, I'm going to jump in here on that bar. We also have honors. Those are the honors throughout the year. Those will be new next year. There's forms, and then contact us again. Important dates are listed there for you that we covered earlier. If you go back up to the top up there, Will, the top bar, you don't have to go to it, but there's a title there called bylaws. So if you needed to know the rules for one act play in the TAPS bylaws, you click on that. You're going to have to give it a few seconds to load. It'll load on a new page. On the left-hand side, it will display for you the table of contents, and the one act play rules are in the fine arts section. You'll scroll way down. Section 250, sections 250 to 255 is where you can find all of our rules and bylaws related to one act play. Brian?
Back on the page on the right-hand side in green, you see the webinar schedule update is written there. That's going to be the One Act Play blog. So every time we send an email to you, every time we send a rank one push, we'll also post those on the TAPS website right there. So it also has older entries. So if you go to that One Act Play page frequently, if there's new information, it'll be posted there. Right below the post, you have the word tweets, and it's TAPS OAP. It looks like TAPS soap, but it's TAPS OAP. That is our Twitter feed for One Act Play. So as you begin and as you go through the year, whether it's from rehearsal, if your social media accounts are pushing out One Act Play information, we highly encourage you to include TAPS OAP as well, so that we can help go forward and really highlight all of our shows that are going on. Championship information will be updated as soon as possible as we get there. While we talk about the championship, just want to remind you that we will be returning to Kerrville this year. Playhouse 2000 is shown up there. They're the great hosts that operate. They're the personnel at Kerrville at the Callow Theater. So we look forward to returning there. And they've been great partners. They've helped us change our program a little bit. They've helped us with the tweaks. And as always, they're the most supportive personnel I've ever been around when you get down there as far as helping our schools and move forward. So we're going to, again, the TAPS One Act Play landing page needs to be on your list of things to check. And if you need us, click on contact us, and that'll send us an email to info@taps.biz. Will, let's jump back to the presentation.
While Will's doing that, let's grab a couple of questions right quick, Brian. Will entries still be on Tapster?
No entries for schools will be on Tapster. That will all be through One Act Play, and that will be up and ready for you to see come September 1 or September 15th at the latest. So you don't have to enter anything there until September 15th, but all entries will be through Tapster, not through Tapster, but will be through Rank 1.
All right, we got another one here about districts. You alluded to the fact that we need all that information of who's signed up for One Act Play. What's posted on the alignment page is what we know at this point, but as we get more information, there may be some changes to that, but if there aren't any significant changes, then what you see is what we'll roll with in the fall, and we'll keep you updated if there are any changes.
I think a good way to look at it is that's what we know today. That's what we knew in October. Nothing's changed to date. We are in some unfortunate times. We look at each school. Each school will have to look at their budget. Each school will have to look at their offerings. Each school will have to then determine what they're going to do and not do. So I think if you're planning on doing it today, I think that's great. Stay with us. But I do think there's going to be some tough decisions on all lines for our schools as we move closer. Unfortunately, several of our schools have lost significant numbers of students, which may impact the programs they can offer. So again, what you see is what we knew in October. We've amended it as we've gone from October to now with adds and drops. So as you reach out and begin making some preliminary discussions with your districts, if folks say, hey, I'm not playing, encourage them to drop us an email. Or if folks say, hey, I wanted to do that, or you're not on there, let us know that as well.
We've got a rank one question. We won't get into the weeds on this one, but it does bring up something that's important for you to know throughout the course of this last year as we got toward the end of the year. Part of rank one's process in rolling things out was to add a fine arts page. That has been added. There are some tweaks they're working through with that. This question relates to kind of toggling back and forth between the athletics page and the fine arts page, and making sure all that information is there and accessible. Reach out to our office and we can help you walk through that, and we can get those issues resolved for you.
Again, info@taps.biz, B-I-Z, great place to start. Our phone number still carries that prefix from Salado, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. So Kelly can help you with the rank 1 stuff here in our office. Rhonda can as well. Must be honest with you, if you're going to ask Brian the rank 1 questions, you're probably not going to get the answers you were looking for. But we will give it our best shot as we move forward. So the entry process will be very much the same. You'll once you get your students, you'll mark that they are doing one act play, and then off of that roster, you'll start entering the information that you have. One act play overview. One of the things that we've been trying to do for several years, and our schools have asked for it, is, you know, if our state championship's going to be in Kerrville, and I'm in I'm in Amarillo, or I'm in Beaumont, or I'm in Dallas-Fort Worth, the opportunity for my parents and my school to go see that are very limited. And our audiences have proven that it's a very audience limiting situation. However, the facility and what we get from the Playhouse 2000 and the Callow Theater make it a great destination point. We have been exploring over the years, at least the last 4 years, Vina and I have delved greatly into how could we broadcast, how could we do a solo non-recordable, how can we do a live stream of each play. And for the most part, the publishers have not been the most willing participants in that. They did not want to allow that. However, Vina will have more information, and we'll post that on the One Act Play page once we actually get it confirmed. We have a couple of sites that are willing as publishers. They've secured live streaming rights as well. That's all part of the National Federation of High Schools and working with them. So one of the things that we're going to ask is you begin searching your plays, and you've probably already begun that process, but as you continue, Rena will have additional information up there as to the 2 publishers that would have streaming rights. So if you do have a play, and whichever play and whoever you choose it from, I would definitely encourage you to ask about streaming rights. If you are fortunate and you qualify for state, that way we could live stream those back. And if you didn't have those rights, then we wouldn't stream your play, but at least the folks back home would get to see your kids perform. And the conversations we've had with the 2 publishers to date have been very encouraging. That's one of the things that they're looking for. So Robert mentioned it before. If you go to taps.biz and you click on the word bylaws, and then you scroll all the way down to section 250, that's going to be where One Act Play comes into play. Basically, it is a high school competition. We've had concerns and questions. Can students in the 8th grade perform or 7th grade perform with our One Act Play? At the present time, that is under review, especially for our smaller schools, but it is under review by our staff and by the fine art group to determine whether or not the board will receive that. The board would then have to make a decision, but we have listened, especially in today's time with COVID, when our casting crews may be limited, is there an opportunity to allow junior high students to participate more fully in One Act Play? So we are looking at that. One Act Play is one of the qualifying, it's one of the last qualifiers that we have in fine arts. So you do have to perform and qualify and be in the top 2 at your district to advance to the state competition. So One Act Play is a qualifier. We will continue to do the script reviews. If you request, that information will all be on the One Act Play website no later than June 15th. We've obviously we've wanted to get as much information out as possible, especially today and over the last weeks. The overriding concerns of COVID-19 have kind of interrupted the website updating. So for that, I take full responsibility and I apologize. But by June 15th, it will be up and ready to rock and roll. As a reminder, your cast is 15 members, and your crew are 5 members, and your alternates are up to 5. I know that other competitions may have expanded that, but as a whole, our board has approved 15 and 5. So as we continue to move forward, we will have TAPS Division 1, 2, and 3. Those are based on your school classifications and the way they're combined. The awards haven't changed. We still look forward to presenting all those. Again, with your place selection, we just I encourage you to go to section, it's down a little bit, it's 252. As you go through 252, make sure that number 1, your play conforms to the TAPS standards and to the standards of your school and community. Things too far left or too far right sometimes get us in trouble. So just make sure if you've got questions, please show those. Please respond to info@taps.biz. We'll do the best we can to help you guide that through. We do want to see your, if you have questions, we need to see your cuttings. So as you start working through that, we'll work through that with you. Again, we had trouble every year. We struggle with, did you get your the copyright rules? Did you get, remember that TAPS plays must be published or registered with the Copyright Office. It may be the greatest thing in the world that you had a young lady or a young man write a play and you want to use that. That was one of the when I taught U.S. literature and AP Lit, my students had to write a one-act play. But unfortunately, very few of them ever got them published, so we could not go back and use those. So it must be published or be registered with the U.S. Copyright Office. And again, make sure you acquire the rights from a publisher to perform those. Those letters will be required. If you do ask TAPS to read it, there is a fee we'll walk through. The TAPS standards have not changed, so make sure you read back through what you can't do and what you can't. We tell you what you can't do. We're not real big on telling you what you can do. And then make sure that you go through your play, make sure it's approved by your head of school or your principal, whoever's in charge of that. We will have all things going on. We'll have the same folks coming back. We do have Jim Rambo assigning our judges. So I think each district will be assigned by Jim. And then Jim will be assigning our state judges. So you'll have a solo critic judge at your district. I know we've had many districts ask, can we do 3? To be honest with you, the overwhelming response when we discuss this with heads of school, et cetera, it's just a cost factor. So right now, one-act play for the first time in TAPS history broke even financially. And that was with using 3 judges at state and 1 critic judge at the district level. So for at least the foreseeable future, 2020, the fall season, we will be using 1 critic judge at the district level, and we will do 3 at the state level. And I don't see that changing for the near future, but at least we're on that road. We're proud to be able to offer the panel at state. The rest of the information is there as far as rehearsal and whatever. Go to section 250 and read on through 255. Any situation that doesn't become clear to you, please reach out to us at info@taps.biz. Go ahead, Will. Let's jump up to summer practices. So again, TAPS announced last week, and it was more for the athletic side, but summer rules go into effect for TAPS beginning June 1, which basically means that it's a local control issue now as to when you come back and how you come back. We know that each of our schools is different. Some of our schools have theaters, some have fantastic theaters, and some have no theater. So if you were wanting to begin some kind of a rehearsal or working with your kids, where and when and how and why, those need to be worked out with your local administration. That way it more correctly corresponds to what your opportunities will be. So summer practices, TAPS does not limit practices. We do not limit camps. There was a discussion of dead week last year, and does it apply to one-act play? The answer is no. So dead week means no practices for football or volleyball or on the athletic side. And we did have several schools and their directors choose to use that dead week as an audition time. So I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you that's an opportunity if you so wish to do that. So Robert, why don't you talk about COVID in the fall for just a couple of minutes?
Okay. So as we move through the summer and then look toward the start of school in the fall, thanks for helping us out with those poll questions. We've had a lot of conversations with people from our member schools about what their thoughts are about starting school, what their schedule is going to look like. We've had a lot of discussions and planning here in the TAPS office as well. Like we mentioned earlier, our calendar is still hopefully, from our perspective, going to remain the same. This has been a moving target with regard to changes and updates. We'll continue to keep everybody posted on that. But one of the questions that's come up with regarding the fall is if I get started late or if I get started and I have issues at my school and we have to close down for some period of time because of COVID, what effect will that have? If I go to a learning module that has my students on campus part of the time, but not part of the time, those are kind of 2 different situations. What we've been telling people here in the office, if you have a schedule where you're scheduled to be on conducting classes either on campus or through some virtual opportunity, and that's a part of your normal schedule, then if your students aren't on campus for that day or that week, but your school is pretty much functioning as designed, then it's perfectly fine for you to be with your students and do those things, subject to what is determined by your local school administration. If, however, your school ended up in a situation where the school was shut down and on-campus interaction was not allowed at all because of some sickness or illness that's circulating in your community, then our counsel to people on our end is that it would not be wise and it would not be acceptable for you to be having practices and things. We're telling the same thing to the athletic world, that if you're out for safety reasons, you're out for safety reasons.
Again, COVID in the fall could affect us in many ways, but another question was asked, if we go to all this work, and we've worked all summer and we've worked into the fall, and now for some reason we have an outbreak or something occurs and we can't get to, we qualify for Kerrville, but we can't get to the state championship. We are working on alternate ways. We're looking at virtual opportunities for both district and state. Definitely have no plans on making that the norm yet. But we are looking at ways, and we've explored this with a couple of different folks that do this, of how could we do a closed circuit TV where the judges are judging in real time, and perhaps, you know, you film it, they're judging in real time. We've looked at a lot of different options there. Definitely not saying that's the way we're going, but I think that I would take that if I were you. I'm trying to give you a word of encouragement that if something does shut us down, the competition couldn't go on. We struggled this year. We tried in the music realm. We considered this greatly as well. You know, folks that had been working on their large ensembles for vocal and instrumental last spring did not get to perform, but we had a very similar plan in place, and we'll definitely work out those options. Not saying it's going to happen, but know that it will be there. If we're prepared, we should be ready to take on that obstacle if it sets itself in our way. Robert?
We got a question here. If you have other questions, type those in right quick. We're getting toward the end of our presentation here, but we'll certainly try to pick up some questions. Here's one, Brian. When and how would we find out who the president is of our district?
We're going to give folks a couple of days here to go back and check and look at that alignment. And probably by the end of next week, my goal would be by the 5th of June, we'll have temporary district presidents listed. And the temporary district president needs to call a meeting of each of those schools in their district. And of course, having that information of how to get that, that's one of the things they're working on now too, getting folks to update their information in rank 1. But we'll have that information by the end of next week, and then we'll have the basic, hey, I'm the temporary district president. What are my responsibilities and how do I move forward from here? I will tell you that it's a very tentative time right now. I know folks are trying to book in the past, folks have wanted to immediately try to book a date and book a theater. I just encourage you to wade with caution and make sure that your force majeure parts are in your contract so that you can back out, and know that as much as we want to say right now, our schedules, both athletically and fine arts, are firm. You know, if a change comes at that point, what would we do? So, you know, if volleyball gets stopped for 2 weeks and you have volleyball players or football players, how does that react? So it might be a more coordinated dance this year than it has been in years past. So know that we have some plans and we will work forward. Temporary district presidents will be noted by June the 5th.
All right, thank you, Brian. We got one more question that came in about publishers.
I basically indicated that there were a couple of publishers out there that were providing an option for us that would allow for live streaming. I think the concern right now is that I know you want to jump out there and grab it. We will have that information on the website as soon as possible. As you can imagine, we can't release their information until they give us that okay. We haven't really gotten that yet, but we are working. We'll continue to work next week. I know that if I were directing one to play, and believe it or not, I did do that years and years and years ago, I would want to have it as firm as in place. I will tell you that several of our schools may have already picked a play. You exactly know who your cast is going to be, and you're expecting them all to return. I would allow yourself a few options out there. From what we're hearing from our schools, the enrollment numbers are fluctuating daily, and who's coming and who can and who can't, it's out there. So we will have that information. Go to www.taps.biz, go to that one act play page, and as soon as we get that information, we'll shoot you an email and shoot you all the contact information as that comes up.
All right, thanks, Brian. I don't see any more questions currently. That wraps up our portion of the information we wanted to share. If you think of other questions, like Brian said, reach out to us, info@taps.biz, or give us a call here in the office. We've been doing the social distancing and virtual officing as well. We began to move back into the office on a more regular basis, and so we are here to help. With that, Brian, close it out for us.
One Act Play has been a great thing for TAPS. We look for continued greatness as we move forward. We love to see the gifts that our children have been given, put on display. As directors, you're a great group of leaders. You instill the love of the theater in your students, and that's always expressed in any of the plays that we've seen in the competitions. It is a competition. We need to get there so we can have them. So by next week, by June the 5th, we'll have up there the temporary district presidents. You can plan on beginning your beginnings of who's going to host and where you're going to host and when it's going to be. We'll have our information updated as soon as possible on locations for plays and opportunities, like I said, to get the live streaming options. I know that Samuel French does not offer that most of the time, but some of the others will. So with that, we appreciate you being here. Our phone number, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. Info, INFO @taps.biz with a Z. That is our email. We encourage you to email us as your questions arise. I will tell you that we look on having more webinars. We'll have one at the very beginning of August, and then we will have a couple throughout the One Act Play season, again, to be more of a question and answer series than us presenting material, but to help you get ready and move forward. So expect another webinar late July, early August, where we get down to the nitty gritty of exactly what's going on. At that point, we'll walk you through how to load your kids in, get your cast and your crew, get those listed in rank 1 once you picked your play, and you can start indicating all that information. And then once your host facilities are decided and who will host, we'll start working on getting you your judges, etc. So we look forward to the fall. We look forward to being as close to normal as it can be, but we're going to be prepared to take care of business, whatever we get in hand. So thank you again, John. I'll turn it over to you to finish us out.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Robert and Will in the office today for helping us through this webinar. A couple of things before we close. Again, this has been recorded. That recording will be available later this afternoon. It's going to be on our YouTube page. You'll get a link in your follow-up email. The link will also be on our website where you signed up for this webinar. A couple of things to plug real quick. Brian mentioned our social media, TAPS OAP. If you could give us a follow, if you have a fine arts account or a drama account or a theater account at your campus, we would appreciate that. It helps us find the other members of our community. And if you tag us in posts, it's easy for us to share pictures, to share behind the scenes or anything that you guys are doing. We love promoting our schools and trying to get as much out there as we possibly can. I actually got to see the last 2 days of performances for One Act Play this year. The event that I was working on ended, and I could go down to Kerrville, and that was a lot of fun. I'd never seen that before, and I got to photograph some of it, so that was really cool. So I hope to see it again this year in the fall. Lastly, we've got a podcast now for TAPS called TAPS Talk. We've got 5 episodes out so far. Our cheer episode is going out next week, but we are working on a One Act Play episode for the future. So if you're interested in possibly being interviewed for us, send us an email, info@taps.biz. You can find our podcast anywhere that you can find podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Stitcher. Just search for TAPS Talk or visit our website, taps.biz/talk, and you can stream all of the episodes there. Thank you, folks, for being with us today. Again, if you have any more questions, info@taps.biz. Have a good rest of your Thursday, and we hope to see you in the fall.